What is up, Sleep Tribe? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Healthy Sleep Revolution podcast. I am your host, Dr. Meghna Dassani. As always, I am back with some tips and tricks. And actually, today's episode is in response to a question that I received in a weekly newsletter, basically. So if you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, go ahead, go to my website, meghnadassani.com, and sign up to receive the newsletter. I send out a newsletter once a week with, what's new in the world of sleep, tips, tricks, upcoming events, or anything that I feel is worth sharing with you guys. So go ahead and sign up for that newsletter. You could be a parent, you could be a doctor. We have different lists for both with pertinent information that comes your way. Before I get into responding to that question, I did want to share my thoughts and feedback, and also feedback that I've received about the Thrive Therapeutics gummies. As most of you know, those have been a passion project for me as a mom, as a dental professional, as somebody that understands how our body functions, and also the correlation to sleep or lack of healthy sleep. I had for the longest time looked for non-melatonin supplements to help our children get to healthy sleep, which is why I came up with, over a period of 2 years, came up with the Thrive Therapeutics, what I call the calming gummies. And here's the reason it's not a sleep gummy, because it is not a sleep aid. It has no melatonin. What it does have is natural ingredients that's going to help your and your kids' bodies wind down and get to sleep faster. One of the most common misconceptions people have about that is that you take it before bedtime and it helps you or your kid fall asleep. And I wanted to clear the air about how I do recommend it being used. There's dosages for children. There's a different dosage for adult. The dose for kids is 1 gummy, and that for adults is 2 gummies. Take it at 5 p.m. Take it when you get home from school or when you get home from work. And here is why. The ingredients in that gummy, the ashwagandha, lemon balm, chamomile, all of those work towards, the main goal is to work towards reducing the cortisol levels in our body. So it's not going to be instantaneous. I am not promising instantaneous results for the main reason, because we're training your body. It took us so long to get here. It's going to take us some amount of time to get to where we want to. When you take it at 5 p.m. or thereabouts, it's going to work to decreasing those cortisol levels in your body. So when you get to bedtime, in addition with good sleep hygiene, in addition with all the other things that we talk about, you are giving your body a chance to release its own melatonin, which your body is perfectly capable of doing. So that is the goal with those gummies. It is not a sleep aid. It is not going to help you to get to sleep. It is not a fast fix. Now that I have that out of the way, the question I received, and I'm going to pull that up right here in the email that I had, they said, do you have a podcast episode on kids sleeping late? I have one kid that doesn't go to bed until 9 p.m. They haven't mentioned how old that child is. She's just alert. And my other one cannot sleep. So in response to this, and for those of you guys that may be wondering what's going on with my child, it's very important to know, first off, how old is this child? Because a lot of those factors can play in as well. Typically what we find is with teenagers, or kids that are preteens and then just headed into their teenage years, sometimes those circadian rhythms are starting to change. So for example, I have an almost 18, a 17-year-old. She'll be 18 in just a few months. And a little one will be 15 in a month. And the little one, my younger daughter, I can tell her sleep cycles are shifting. Her circadian rhythm is shifting. And that we tend to see that fairly commonly in teenagers. And then as they get past the teenage years and they get into, their late teens, early 20s, things start to get back on track to what I call the adult sleep cycles and circadian rhythms. So knowing how old that child is can play a huge role. If they're ones where they're shifting into that circadian rhythm, that might be what I call quote unquote normal, part of growing up. And it's just one of those things where we have to learn to have some grace, give our teenagers the option, the opportunity to be able to sleep in. It's not their fault. Well, some of it might be because they're on social media or watching movies or whatever it is that teenagers do, on their phones, chatting with their friends late into the night. But there are a lot of nights when I know, my teenager especially, she's like, I promise you, I'm trying to lay down, I'm trying to go to bed, and I just can't. And I know this because when we're on vacation, it's the same thing. So sometimes it might just be that. No, but if this is a younger child, then we want to assess and evaluate what is going on. Do they have restless leg syndrome? Can they not fall asleep because they just can't get comfortable? In which case, you and I know, let's get their ferritin levels checked. Let's talk to the pediatricians, to their MDs, and see, hey, is this possibly related to a deficiency? What's going on? Another key thing to remember and understand is also vitamin D levels. We had an amazing episode with Dr. Stasha Gomanak coming up that touches upon this, how vitamin D and B12 levels can contribute to lack of sleep, insomnia. It can contribute to insomnia. So make sure you go in and listen to that episode if you haven't already. Is there a deficiency? When was the last time we had blood work done? There are so many causes to insomnia, why it's hard for even a child to fall asleep. What are they eating or drinking after a certain point in the afternoon or evening? In my practice, it's not uncommon to have younger children come in with energy drinks in their hands. They'll have that fancy mocha frappe latte chino, whatever it is that kids have. That has caffeine. The energy drinks, like I don't even know because my children or I don't drink any of these, but you guys know what I'm talking about, the fancy cool looking cans, and it may not be a Red Bull or, a certain brand name or a Monster drink, but if it has caffeine in it, it's going to make it hard for them to fall asleep. Does your child binge on chocolate because they're tired, exhausted when they come home from school? Is that playing a role? Is too much sugar the culprit? So there's so many factors that go into play. And then there's always the bottom line. Are there unresolved sleep issues? Is the brain, quote unquote, afraid or scared to go to bed because is this child stopping breathing at night? And the brain goes into protective mode, fight or flight mode. I gotta make sure we do whatever we can to stay awake and not have bad things happen. If this is a child that has night terrors or nightmares, parasomnias, again, there may be a subconscious fear of falling asleep. So there's so many factors that go into this. I say start there. Start at the age of the child. Look at what it is that might be contributing to them not being able to fall asleep. And then we know to address. So the question always to ask is why? Why is this happening? And once we have the answer to that why, ask a second why, right? We've talked about this. Ask that why again. So then we can truly get to the root of the problem. So if you are the mom that sent me this question, and if you are listening in, I hope this helps give you perspective to at least know what is a good place to get started. Reach out to your doctors, reach out to your pediatrician, reach out to your dentist, and have these conversations, and they can at least help guide you and your child into why is it that they're unable to fall asleep. I hope this helps. If you have someone in your life that has a child, or you have a child that has a hard time falling asleep, share this episode with them. Who knows what might click with them? As always, hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and I will see you next time.